These two are literally living a fantasy now. There's no royal visit. They don't even have a charity. This is all just a private money-making tour.
40,705 Australians. That number is climbing right now, and it's picking up speed by the hour. This petition isn't just sitting quietly in the background anymore. It's getting louder, sharper, and harder to ignore every single day. The message is direct and bold. People are saying they don't want this visit to go forward, and the momentum keeps building fast. Just today alone, another 758 names got added, pushing this thing even further into the spotlight. And this isn't random noise either. The focus is locked in on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The wording of the petition makes it crystal clear: no taxpayer money, no official backing, no support tied to what's being described as a private visit, no confusion, no soft language, just straight pressure rising in real time as more eyes start paying attention. What makes this even more interesting is how quietly it all started. A group out of Sydney called Beyond Australia launched this back on November 14, 2025. And for a long time, nothing really happened. It sat there with around 200 signatures, barely moving, almost like nobody even noticed it. But then mid-March came around and everything flipped overnight. The numbers started jumping fast: 10,000, then 30,000, now past 40,000. It went from invisible to impossible to ignore in a matter of days. Behind the scenes, things didn't stay quiet either. Beyond Australia didn't just post this and walk away. They took it straight to top-level leaders. We're talking Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, NSW Premier Chris Minns, and Victoria Premier Jacinta Allen. And they pushed one simple question that still hasn't been clearly answered. Will even $1 of public money be used for this trip? So far, nothing concrete, just distance, careful wording, and a lot of silence.
Just rack off. That's what furious Australians are going to be saying to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after this astonishing leak has just proved that the couple have been lying about the security costs on next week's fake royal tour.
Why on earth should these two be given taxpayer-funded security in the first place? They are no longer working royals.
Australian viewers of the Mark Dolan show don't want to see Harry and Meghan. The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
I love you.
Australians don't want them there. They're not interested. And they've raised a petition in Australia to say, look, if they do come, free country, but if they do come, they're coming as private citizens. This is not a royal tour. And we do not want a single penny of Australian taxpayers' money spent on the police protecting these two.
The Prime Minister's office has already said they're not involved. Home Affairs stepped back too. And federal police aren't giving any details about possible security. It's like nobody wants to be publicly connected to the situation at all. And here's what really stands out. Not a single politician has stepped forward to openly support the visit. Not one. That silence is speaking louder than any press conference ever could. And people are definitely picking up on it. Now let's keep it real for a second. 40,000 signatures in a country of 26 million isn't a full nationwide wave. Even the organizers admit that themselves. But it doesn't have to be huge to matter. It just has to be loud enough to shift attention. And right now, it's loud enough that officials are acting like they didn't see it, and that alone changes the whole tone of the situation. Because if you go back to 2018, the energy was completely different. Australia welcomed them openly. No hesitation, no pushback at all. That was the image, that they were embraced without question. But now, that image is starting to crack. And people are noticing.
The PR and the pomp and pageantry almost of being part of the royal family, but they don't really want any of the responsibility, do they? They like to turn up to events, have a few photos taken, look like the charming, lovely people that they wish to present themselves as, and then go home, then go back to California.
Can I just tell you that Australia has tackled illegal immigration very successfully? And I think given the fact that Harry and Meghan are on their way, I think it's time to reactivate Operation Sovereign Borders, Paul. Airstrikes, get the boats out.
The difference in real time. Take it back to October 17th, 2018. Dubbo, New South Wales. Harry stood there in heavy rain, no umbrella, speaking directly to farmers going through serious struggles. It was open, public, and real. Thousands showed up, and his message connected deeply. He told them they shouldn't stay silent, that asking for help was one of the most important decisions he ever made. That moment felt personal. It felt genuine. But now, the tone feels different, and that shift is hard to ignore. This is the same Harry who, in 2021, talked openly about how privilege can blind people. That message stuck with a lot of viewers because it sounded honest and self-aware. But fast forward to April 15th and 16th, 2026, and the setting changes completely. Now the spotlight moves to Melbourne Park, where a major event is being held. The Inter-Edge Psychosocial Safety Summit. Same focus on mental health, same country, same message about speaking up. And to be clear, the cause itself is respected and supported, including organizations like Lifeline that help people in serious situations. But what's raising questions is everything around the event. When people saw the ticket prices, reactions came fast. Platinum access sitting at 2,378 Australian dollars, gold at 1,978. Those numbers alone put the event completely out of reach for a lot of everyday people.
Well, he loves it, doesn't he? I mean, that probably is what keeps him going. He's so sad and miserable in his own life because he's basically Meghan's spare handbag that he just feels better when he, slags off, as you said. He loves criticising everybody except for himself.
I can't imagine why nobody's going. Can you? I mean, it sounds so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds so interesting. From a man who can't keep an employee to save his life, talking about workplace mental health.
Then suddenly, just 9 days before the summit, 2 new ticket options quietly show up. A delegate pass for $997 and a virtual option for $498. That delegate pass cuts the original price by more than half overnight, and people immediately started asking why that change happened so late. Reports noticed it quickly, but there hasn't been any clear explanation from the organizers or Harry's team. No breakdown, no clarification, nothing. Just more silence, and that silence is becoming a pattern that people can't ignore. At the same time, more details started adding fuel to the discussion. Reports suggest Harry's speaking fee is around 50,000 Australian dollars, similar to what he's been linked to at other events. Then another claim comes into the mix, that he may have stepped in late after another speaker became unavailable earlier in the year. And that's where the contrast really hits. The same message that once reached people standing in the rain for free is now coming from a stage where even the lowest access is close to $1,000. That difference is what people are focusing on right now. This isn't about the cause itself. It's about the shift in how it's being delivered. When did something that felt open and accessible turn into something behind a paywall? And who made that decision? Because the same people who stood in Dubbo back in 2018 wouldn't have been able to step inside this event today. And then the timeline shifts again, and things start connecting in a whole new way. Lock in this date, October 3rd, 2025. That's where another piece of the puzzle starts lining up.
They need $3 million just to survive each year, just to meet their minimum security needs. So I really think we can't frame this in any other way other than a pay for play, a desperate, grab for cash. And I think that just comes down to it, that they really need the bucks.
Now jump ahead to April 17th through 19th, 2026. A separate event in Sydney called the Her Best Life Retreat, happening at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach. This retreat is being run by one person, Gemma O'Neill. Not the radio personality some might think of, a completely different individual. And just to clear things up, Jackie Henderson had already stepped away from that podcast earlier in the year. O'Neill is running this through her company, Besties Australia, handling everything herself. But here's where people started paying closer attention. On October 3rd, 2025, the same date mentioned earlier, she purchased a 3-bedroom cottage in Fitzroy Falls, New South Wales, valued at just over 1 million Australian dollars. That detail is confirmed through public property records and reports, and now it's part of a timeline that people are looking at a lot more closely. Then just 7 weeks later, November 25th, 2025, everything takes a sharp turn. Her separate talent company officially enters voluntary liquidation. This isn't rumor talk or online chatter. This is straight from official public records, fully documented and confirmed. And when those two dates sit side by side, that's when people really start looking closer, because the timing hits different when you see it clearly lined up. Fast forward to February 20th, 2026, and now things get even more serious. O'Neill tells administrators she cannot contribute anything toward repayment. Zero. No partial offer, no plan, nothing. Her reasons are clearly listed in official documents. No personal savings, limited income,
Obviously, what's going on here is some guy in Australia has gone, I'm starting up a wellness retreat. Who can I get to come and promote it and see if I can get some publicity for it? I know. I'll ring up the grifters in chief. I'll pay them a couple of £100,000. They'll come to Australia and I'll get loads of publicity, and lots of idiots might go there because they might think it's the home of, celebrity wellness. And that's what it's all about. It's completely a commercial deal. They're trying to make out that it's a semi-royal visit, right? It's not. It's literally hoping against hope that they get a free goodie bag at the end of it that might have a Rolex in it. I mean, it's that shallow.
And an unsuccessful attempt to refinance her Sydney apartment. This isn't speculation, it's all recorded. Then just 4 days later, February 24th, 2026, Grant Thornton, Australia, files the creditors' report, and the numbers come in heavy. Total debts reach 546,848 Australian dollars. But here's the part that really stands out. 543,548 of that is owed to the Australian Taxation Office. That's nearly the entire amount tied to one place. But it doesn't stop there, because the administrators highlight something even more unusual: a 7-figure commission payment linked to an unnamed client. And according to their own written findings, there's no proper documentation supporting it, no loan agreement, no clear purpose, no visible benefit to the company. That's a major concern, and they didn't hold back in pointing it out. They also mentioned something that pushes the timeline even further back, suggesting the company may have been financially unstable as early as December 2024. That means the situation didn't just appear overnight. It may have been building for a while. Now watch how quickly things shift again. Just 2 weeks later, March 11th, 2026, O'Neill announces Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, as the headline speaker for a luxury retreat, ticket price $2,699 Australian dollars. And it's that timing that's making people stop and really think about what's going on.
They think somehow that Australians are a little naive, a little easy to skin as far as flogging her as ever merchandise. I think she thinks we're, hicks down under that won't see through it all and be just so honoured that she's graced us with her spreads.
She's never sold, 100,000 quid's worth of jam, quite frankly.
No way.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And I see that she's off to Australia. She's copyrighted the As Ever brand, and she's going to land in Australia and she's going to get booed because people hate the woman. She's ghastly, she's toxic, she's horrible, she's ruined a young, once promising man who's now a husk of his former self, who cannot even stand up for himself.
Now let's slow this part down, because it matters. Besties Australia and the GMI agency are technically separate businesses on paper. So any idea that money from one is directly covering the other? That hasn't been proven. That's not a confirmed link. But the question is still strong. Who is funding this event? And where exactly is that money flowing? Because right now, there are no clear public answers being shared. Around that same time, another move caught attention. O'Neill quietly deletes her personal Instagram account. No statement, no explanation. Just gone, and people following this closely started asking something simple but important. What kind of background checks were done before approving this event? Because that's usually a standard step. Now let's break down what that $2,699 ticket actually includes. 2 nights at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach, a gala dinner, a disco night, Saturday lunch, yoga sessions, and sound healing meditation led by O'Neill, plus a conversation moment with Meghan during the gala. On the surface, it sounds like a premium experience, but here's where things start raising eyebrows. That standard package includes a shared room. Yes, shared. If you're attending alone, you could end up staying with someone you've never even met before. For nearly $2,700, that detail caught a lot of people off guard.
This money-spinning tawdry event will be for 300 women, and we estimate that Meghan will probably make £100,000 from that weekend. Okay, that's good money for a couple of days. Morning yoga classes, sound healing, a manifestation session. What the hell is that? What's going on, Samara?
Meghan is trading trash for cash at this point. I mean, seriously, she is.
Because most would expect full privacy at that level. If you want your own room, there's only one upgrade option: the VIP tier at $3,199. That includes an ocean view, a gift bag, and a photo opportunity. But again, that's an extra cost just to secure personal space. Now here's where things take another unexpected turn. A reporter from 7 News, Ariana, decided to attend as a regular paying guest. No special, access, no media badge. She paid the full $2,699 herself. She made a simple request to keep her own room and receive a tax invoice. That's all. But the moment organizers realized she worked in media, everything shifted fast. Her ticket was refunded, her access removed, and she was told media were not allowed to attend. The issue? That rule wasn't clearly stated during the booking process. No warning, no clear notice during checkout. Ariana later shared her full experience publicly, including emails, and that added even more attention to the situation. At the same time, the event's sold-out status started raising questions. Earlier, it was reported that all spots were taken, but then suddenly, the website updates saying a limited number of additional rooms have been released. That change didn't go unnoticed. Online users quickly pointed out that it looked like organizers were trying to fill remaining availability. Others also noticed that the hotel dates remained unavailable on the Intercontinental's own booking system for weeks.
So if you're an online psychotic sycophant of Meghan, you're more than welcome to come. But if you're a professional woman that happens to work in a media career, no, sorry, we'll take your money, then we'll kick you out. It's honestly, this has just got disaster written all over it.
Gwyneth Paltrow's Besties event, which was in 2023. It's basically an influencer blackout. Now, the difference, the contrast with Meghan is the fact that there is nothing. I am shocked. There is no excitement. There's no build-up. There's no one willing to break their silence, anyone of note, to say that they're actually going to the event.
Which raised another question about how many rooms were actually confirmed. And when you step back and look at everything together, it creates a very specific picture. You're paying over $2,600, traveling to Sydney, and possibly sharing a room with a stranger. And if you have any connection to media, you might not even be allowed in. That's why people are debating what this event really represents. Because for many watching closely, it feels less like open access and more like a tightly controlled, high-priced experience that not everyone can fully access. Now, with all of that stacking up at the same time, the petition gaining speed, the sudden ticket changes, the financial report raising eyebrows, and the media situation getting messy, the response finally arrives. March 26th, a spokesperson steps forward and addresses everything publicly. The message comes out direct and controlled. The trip is privately funded, so the petition doesn't really affect anything. But then comes the part that really got people talking. The statement highlights that about 99.98% of Australians didn't sign the petition, hinting that this could suggest wider support. And right after that, it flips the argument and says that kind of conclusion would also be flawed. That's the moment people locked in on. Because instead of sounding like a clear answer or a strong defense, it came across more like a sharp, calculated response, almost like a communications team trying to push back hard without fully stepping into the conversation.
The ridiculousness of the petition. He said it was a stupid assertion. In their response, batting back, that Australians had dared to say, hang on a minute, we don't want our money being spent on these two. So they were very, very rude with the reaction. Any other normal person would have been like, oh, look, okay, look, I do understand there are concerns, but we will be paying our own way. No, they came out with quite a combative statement that was very, very rude towards the Australians. Patronising, I would say.
And that tone, it didn't calm anything down. It actually added more energy to a situation that was already heating up fast. The response didn't land quietly either. It was directed at tens of thousands of people who had already signed that petition, and the reaction came immediately. The very next morning, Beyond Australia responded with one simple but powerful line: silence does not equal consent. That phrase spread quickly and hit hard across online platforms. Then more voices started entering the conversation. Royal biographer Tom Bower shared his view, saying the situation appears to be heavily influenced by financial motives, describing it as complicated and uncomfortable. He pointed back to earlier public messaging and suggested this direction feels different from what was originally presented. At the same time, PR analyst Maya Riaz added her perspective. She explained that connecting a high-profile name to an expensive, exclusive event during a period of public criticism doesn't resonate well with audiences. According to her, it creates a disconnect with what people expect right now. But here's where everything flips in a big way. That petition on its own, it likely would have slowed down naturally, maybe leveled off around a few thousand signatures and faded like most online campaigns do. It needed something to push it further. And that public statement ended up doing exactly that. The moment it went live, the numbers started climbing again. A fresh wave of signatures came in, adding thousands more names. Instead of slowing things down,
they've hit back furiously, saying, no. OK, 32,000 people have signed this petition, but 25 million Australians haven't. So therefore, they're very popular. When they get to Australia, those two, they are going to get booed.
There's no excitement, there's no build. And it's almost like they don't want to be associated with her, with Meghan Markle, because it's really...
It amplified everything. The conversation didn't fade. It got even louder. Then another detail surfaces that shifts the situation again. Internal planning notes shared with selected media on April 9th reveal a major change. There will be no public walkabouts during this visit. Not in Sydney, not in Melbourne, nowhere. The official reason given? Managing security costs and maintaining control. That's what's written in the planning documents. Now compare that to 2018, when everything felt wide open. Back then, there were 76 public engagements across 4 countries in just over 2 weeks. Locations like the Opera House, Bondi Beach, Dubbo, and Melbourne were all open and accessible. Thousands of people showed up everywhere. It wasn't just about appearances. People felt connected. Emotional moments, massive crowds, and unforgettable scenes. One moment that stood out to many, a young boy hugging Harry, captured on camera, becoming a symbol of that entire visit. But now, in 2026, the approach looks completely different. The schedule includes a children's hospital visit, an Invictus-related event on Sydney Harbour, a women's shelter stop, a sports club appearance in Melbourne, a rugby match, and a short visit to Canberra without Meghan. And here's another key detail. The retreat event isn't even part of the official itinerary. It's treated separately, categorized as a commercial activity, and left outside the main schedule entirely. That separation is what has people asking even more questions, because everything keeps circling back to one central point.
Questions are being asked about the appropriateness of this visit to Australia now. There's a cost of living crisis, and yet there you go, Meghan is swanning around like a Z-list or Z-list celebrities, you say in America, charging money for selfies, essentially, at this Sydney retreat, where people are paying thousands of dollars and so forth. They clearly realise that they have no other role in life. There's nothing else that they can really do except for ape the monarchy, but they were supposed to have separated themselves from the monarchy.
Who is actually covering the costs? The petition is focused on taxpayer involvement. The retreat brings attention to private funding, and the official statement says everything is handled privately. But for many watching closely, that explanation doesn't fully settle things. It leaves open questions, and those gaps are exactly what people are trying to understand. Back in 2018, everything felt open. Crowds everywhere, full access, real engagement. It gave the impression of a country fully involved. Now, in 2026, the tone feels completely different. There's a growing petition pushing back, a high-priced retreat under scrutiny, last-minute ticket adjustments raising questions, and an official schedule where the public isn't even invited to interact directly. That shift is what people are focusing on right now, because this no longer looks like the kind of open visit people remember. It feels structured, limited, and much more controlled than before. And this is where everything connects, because when you step back and look at the full picture, it's no longer about one single issue. It's multiple layers building on top of each other at the same time. And people are starting to connect those dots in real time. You've got the petition continuing to grow, refusing to fade away like most online campaigns usually do. Every extra day it stays active keeps the pressure alive and keeps the conversation right in front of everyone. At the same time, the pricing of these events is still being discussed everywhere, not just the numbers themselves, but what they represent. Because when access becomes tied to higher price levels,
These two cretins literally accused the British royal family of institutional racism as Prince Philip lay on his deathbed as the late Queen Elizabeth II was battling bone cancer. Prince William will never forgive them, and you want to bring them back to us at a time, by the way, when their charity ventures have failed, when their business ventures have failed, when they've been dumped by Netflix.
People naturally start questioning who the message is really meant for. And that question keeps getting louder the more details come out, especially when people compare past moments that were open and accessible to what's being presented now. That contrast is driving a big part of the reaction. Then you add in the financial timeline connected to the organizer, and that introduces another layer people can't ignore. Official reports documented debts, and unanswered questions around funding, all appearing just weeks before a luxury event announcement. Even without making direct claims, the timing alone is enough to raise eyebrows. And people aren't reacting randomly, they're watching the sequence closely. What happened first, what followed next, and how everything lines up. Because when events unfold this close together, it naturally leads to more attention and more questions. Now add in the media situation, and things get even more complicated fast. A paying guest being turned away the moment she was identified as a journalist, with no clearly stated rule beforehand. That single moment shifted the tone for a lot of people watching this unfold. Because once access starts getting controlled like that, it naturally raises a basic question. Not anything extreme, just simple logic. If everything is open and straightforward, why limit who gets to see it? And that question hasn't been clearly answered, which is exactly why it keeps coming back again and again. Then there's the official communication. Instead of calming things down, it seemed to do the opposite. The tone, the wording, the way everything was framed, it didn't settle the situation at all.
Protect the public from what exactly? I mean, they think there's going to be so many people there, they'd need to set up railings, they'd need crowd control? Absolutely not. The few people that might turn up to see Harry and Meghan, I don't think are really going to have nice things to say about them, but that's all it's going to be. A boo here and there. So what, they've got police protecting them from people booing? Good luck with that.
Exactly, and this is all to protect their ego.
It pushed more people to look closer and start paying real attention. And once that shift happens, it's hard to undo, because attention doesn't just fade away, it builds. The more people start digging into the details, the more angles they find to talk about. Now think about the decision to completely remove public walkabouts. That's not a small change. That's a major shift from what people remember. Those moments used to be a big part of the connection, the part where everything felt real, open, and direct. Without that, the entire visit starts to feel different, more structured, more controlled, less interactive. And whether that decision was practical or necessary doesn't even matter as much as the perception it creates, because perception shapes everything. And right now, the reaction is clearly mixed. Some people are still supportive, focusing on the charitable side and the intention behind the events. That part of the conversation is still alive and active. But at the same time, another group is asking tougher questions, not about the message itself, but about how it's being delivered. Questions about access, pricing, transparency, and consistency. And those questions aren't going anywhere. They're being repeated across social media, across news coverage, and across everyday discussions. What makes this situation stand out is that it's not just one headline driving attention. It's multiple stories overlapping at the same time. The petition, the ticket changes, the financial reports, the media restrictions, the official response, all hitting within the same window. That kind of overlap builds momentum fast.
I mean, all this guy needed to say was,
and once that momentum kicks in, it carries the story further than anyone expects. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about one visit or one event anymore. It's about expectations. It's about how public figures are perceived compared to how things are actually unfolding in real time. Because when there's a gap between those two, people notice immediately. And once they notice, they start asking questions. And once those questions begin, they don't just stop on their own. So now everything comes down to what happens next. Because this situation is still moving. Nothing here is fully settled, and every new update has the power to shift the entire conversation again. Will there be more clarity around funding? Will organizers step forward and address the concerns directly? Will anything about these events change based on the reaction? Or will everything continue as planned? While the conversation keeps getting louder around it, right now, it feels like the pressure hasn't peaked yet. It's still building, still developing, still pulling more people into the discussion. And that's what makes this moment stand out. Because it's not fading, it's evolving in real time. None of us were in that room on March 26th when that moot point response was written, and that's important to keep in mind. Everything being discussed right now comes from the same pool of public information: official filings, reported details, public statements, and documented timelines. That's it. No hidden access, no behind-the-scenes footage, just what's already out there. And that's exactly why this situation has grown the way it has. Because when information is public, It spreads. People read it, compare it, connect it, and start asking their own questions. That's how momentum builds. And that's exactly what's happening here. You've got the petition numbers continuing to rise instead of slowing down.
The skin is so thin, they are so easily triggered that it's just beyond them to actually stay silent, no matter what the consequences are.
You've got event pricing sparking, debate about accessibility. You've got the timeline of financial filings raising eyebrows. You've got the media situation adding another layer. And then you've got the official response that ended up pulling even more attention onto everything. Each of these points stands on its own, but when you line them all up together, that's when the bigger picture starts forming. And that's the part people are focused on right now. Because this isn't about jumping to conclusions. It's about looking at what's already been presented and asking how it all connects. That's a fair and natural reaction. Anyone following along is going to do the same thing. Now here's where things get even more interesting. That February 24th creditors report, the one already mentioned earlier, still contains a detail that hasn't been fully explored in most conversations. A 7-figure commission payment, not a small amount, a major one. And according to the administrators themselves, there was no clear contract tied to it, no documented agreement, no outlined purpose explaining why it was made. That's not outside speculation. That's written directly in the official report. And when something like that appears in formal documentation, people are going to pay attention because it leads to a simple but powerful question. How does something of that scale happen without a clear paper trail? That's the kind of detail that naturally pulls focus and keeps the conversation moving. Now, to be clear, raising that question doesn't mean jumping to conclusions. It simply points out something that stands out. And right now, that detail is sitting there without a full explanation attached to it. And that's exactly why it keeps coming back into the conversation again and again. At the same time, people aren't just looking at one moment anymore. They're watching patterns, not isolated situations, but how different events line up across the timeline. And when similar types of questions start appearing more than once, it naturally adds weight to the discussion. That's where comparisons begin to show up, not as accusations, but as observations. People are looking at timelines, decisions, and how everything connects. They're trying to piece together the bigger picture in real time, because once attention reaches this level, it doesn't stay locked onto one headline. It spreads across everything connected to it, pulling in more details with every step. Now look at where things stand right now. The visit is still moving forward. The events are still scheduled, and the conversation is still active, growing louder every day. Nothing has been fully settled yet. That means everything from this point on carries even more weight. Every update, every response, every decision, it all shapes how this story continues to unfold. And that's what makes this moment so important, because this isn't just about what already happened. It's about what happens next. Will there be more clarity around the financial details? Will organizers step forward and address the unanswered questions directly? Will any part of the plan shift based on how people are reacting? Or will everything continue exactly as it is, while the discussion keeps building around it? Right now, it feels like people are watching closer than ever before. Not casually, but with real focus. Because once a story reaches this level, it doesn't just disappear overnight. And here's the truth. No matter where someone stands on this, whether they support it or question it, the interest isn't fading. The conversation is locked in and still growing. Because when you have this many moving parts happening at the same time, the petition, the pricing, the timeline, the reports, the response, it creates something bigger than any single detail. It turns into a full situation that people want to understand from every angle. And that's exactly where things are right now. So as everything continues to unfold, one thing is clear: this isn't finished yet, not even close. There are still details that haven't been fully explained, still questions that don't have clear answers, still developments that could shift the entire direction again. And that's why the next update matters so much. Because inside that same February 24th report, the same document people are still reviewing, there are details that haven't been fully broken down yet. Details that could add even more context to everything already discussed. And when those details come into focus, that's when the story could take another turn. So if you've been following this from the beginning, you already know this is one of those situations where every new piece changes how everything looks. If this breakdown helped you see things more clearly, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's been trying to figure this out too. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. Stay locked in, because the next one goes even deeper into the details that haven't been fully unpacked yet, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. See you on the next one.